Hello everyone. You are in the AutoCraft shop and today we are repairing a Hyundai Creta with a left rear impact. The car moved into the oncoming lane, but the speed was most likely small, because the damage is not so global. The rear door was damaged, it was crumpled, the fender was badly hit especially at the bottom, and a piece was torn off at the bottom of the bumper. We will change the lower part of the bumper, as well as the door. The fender owner of the car asked to be repaired. This is how the car looks after we took it apart and removed the paint. The car was prepared for straightening with a spotter. They installed a donor door. It is slightly different in color. The upper front part is indented and there is also a deformation below the molding. But this seems to be a common situation, because donor parts are usually slightly damaged. This is how the broken fender looks from the side of the doorway. The edge of the fender is crumpled inward. And it's strange that the metal wasn't cut at the damage line. We start straightening from the edge of the fender. We weld the loops. We stretch and tap with a hammer to give the fender in the doorway the correct shape. Now the metal has been cleaned of paint and is now almost invisible, but when you did the first review, you probably noticed that rust appeared at the place of the fender deformation. Although about 3 to 4 months had passed after the accident, oddly enough, rust appeared on the galvanized surface. And only after they started straightening it became clear that the metal is quite thin. Accordingly, there is probably not much zinc there. Although when welding the loops you can see white stripes rising at the welding site, this is soot from burnt zinc. So zinc is still there. Having pulled the damaged bottom of the fender, we proceed to the restoration of the arch. Hyundai Creta has a wide enough arch, so first we draw out the upper part of the arch. We make a stretch with a slipway and straighten the surface, tap it with a hammer. Having pulled the arches up to the desired position, we proceed to repair the lower part. We also pull it out, tap it with a hammer and straighten it with a spotter. The metal on this car is very thin, and after deformation it will naturally rust even faster. Therefore, in order not to make it very thin, I decided not to smooth it to zero, but to save a little space for putty in order to try as much as possible to maintain the thickness of the metal. And in general, the impression has recently been that fresh cars, especially crossovers, have a very poor quality paintwork. My neighbor, on his 3-year-old Land Cruiser Prado, has already managed to paint the trunk lid twice at the official service center. There was no damage, but the paint swells in the form of small bugs. And even after the next warranty painting 6 months later, they reappeared. So it's not surprising that the fender on the Hyundai Creta got rusty in 4 months without paint. After repairing the fender, we proceed to straightening the donor door. We remove the paint from the rib and weld the loops and pull out the dent. We check the evenness of the surfaces with a ruler so that the shape is as close as possible to the factory ones. I install a decorative trim on the fender arch, bumper and cover the bare metal with a primer to transport the car to painting. We got the following result: even gaps along the fender arch, an even gap between the fender and the door, and the rib is correctly displayed on the door. After painting, pour the anti-corrosion compound into the fender cavity. Outside, for this, I use the holes for attaching the decorative lining of the fender arch. From the inside, we also spray an anti-corrosion compound into the fender cavity. This is how the car looks after painting and assembly. There are no complaints about the quality of the painting. It is at the highest level. However, despite the careful selection of the paint color, there is a difference in color. P.S. After the repair, after watching the initial video of the damaged car, they saw something that they did not pay attention to before the repair. The damaged elements initially stood out in color, although I doubt very much that they had already been under repair before. The car is completely new. The paint on them was factory. The donor door was also a different shade from the front door of the car, although the color was the same and the paint was also factory there. Some strange car. The instrument measured the thickness of the paint in a circle on all hinged elements of the body. Absolutely all elements differ in thickness. Even on one element the thickness of the paint could vary from 150 to 200 microns. At the same time, the owner says that he bought the car new and never repaired it. There is no reason not to believe him. If anyone knows or suggests what's going on here, write in the comments. Friends, I remind you that we are trying to shoot interesting videos for you, and you in turn press something under the video, write comments, and do not forget to subscribe. We are starting the repair of the next car. See you soon.